Hello and welcome in the next Heretic region sub-Warband video, which is the Knights of Avarice. And the Knights of Avarice has the Heretic Priest as Warband leader, only the Chorister as elite, and all the regular units. And in Mercenaries they have the option to get 2 Goetic Warlock. In my opinion, the Knights of Avarice is maybe one of the most fluffiest sub-Warband in the Trench Crusade, aside their thematic, some of their item, and their Patron also have some very interesting, very funny skill. So, rule number 1, Corrupt Merchant. When you make your Warband you can choose 1 new Antioch and 1 Iron Sultanate item from the battle kit and you can use them in your Warband. But the limitations apply, so keep in mind don't use any item that's, for example, restricted to assassins or any specific unit, because in that case you can't use it. The gas bombs changing the weapon for the artillery leverage, so they working slightly differently compared to the regular one. The Goetic Warlock rules, the one that letting you to have 2 Goetic Warlock in this Warband. And the first one can be both for Ducat and the second one for normal glory. The Infernal Rivalry is the one that prohibits you to have any Death Commando, because their patron is Bellet and he is the rival of Mammon, so that's why you can't use it. The Mammon's Chosen rune is telling you that all your units needs to be above 80 Ducat to use. Below it you can't field that unit, because it's invalid. Only exception for this rule is the Wretched. In the Preserve the Loot rule, you cannot have any item that has or give the fire and shrapnel keyword to the unit or the item. And if you choose the Grenade Launcher, the shrapnel keyword is replaced with -1 injury dice, gas and ignore armor keywords. Price of Greed is changing your Puppet Master ability on the Heretic Priest, and the Price of Greed action is damage action within 12 inch of the Heretic Priest. And the Worship Mammon rule is saying that in the campaign your patron is always Mammon. The Knights of Avarice has some specific item that they can choose from, and the first one is the Coin Hammer, which is a 2-handed melee weapon +1 injury dice and heavy, and whenever you make 1 or more blood marker, you will place 1 blessing marker next to the model with the Coin Hammer. So I think it's a very interesting way to generate blessing marker in your army. The Golden Calf Altar is a deployable item, which is, I could say, consumable, because whenever you use it during the game, it's going to be removed from your Warband or roster after the game. And what it does is that when you place it during the game, it creates a movement blocking area kinda, and more specifically it creates a difficult terrain which even works on the flying units. So you can kind of restrict the movement of your opponent in a very specific way during the game. The gas bombs on your artillery, which is changed to the following profile. It gives -1 injury dice, blast free, gas, ignore armor, ignore cover, ignore elevated position, ignore long range, reload and scatter. So in a way it's working very similar to the previous one, but at the same time different. And also the difference is that choking gas rule is giving the weapon the ability that the units that are hit with the gas are going to get away from the epicenter of the explosion, because they don't like the gas, of course. So you can create a bit of free distraction movement with it among the enemy units, kind of. The Standard of Mammon is a held equipment, and if your unit is within melee with an enemy which is down, that model cannot stand up, stays down, let's say. And if an enemy is charging your unit with the Standard, needs to make a roll. If it's a failure, the unit gets down, the opponent, and if it's a success, then they can continue with the melee attack only. So it's kind of a melee control item, let's say. And the Tarnished Armor is a -2 injury modifier negate gas keyword armor, and with the Target of Wrath ability, whenever a unit is within line of sight of that unit with this armor, needs to select this unit as the charge target, not something else. So it's kinda like having a taunt on the unit, let's say. and the Heretic Priest with the changed action is looking something like this. And the price of grid action is making risky action. If it's a success or critical, in that case, within 12 inch you choose an enemy unit and you make an injury roll on the unit, and for each -1 injury modifier the unit has, which can come from example from an armor or shield or whatever, so for each -1 modifier you get 1 extra injury dice for the roll. So it's kind of compensating out the negative for your roll to be a positive, kind of. As for campaign promotion, here it's a little bit tricky in the meaning that you need to promote as much of your unit as possible because of the cost of them. And which unit is that is technically up to you, so it's really not random, but very close to that. So I would say probably the Anointed and the Mercenaries would be the best choice as a first one, and secondary choices could be the Artillery Witch and any Heretic Trooper. But it's really up to how you build the army here, which units you buy, because all of them needs to be minimum 80 Ducat, so it's kind of like predetermining that you need to promote everyone you can. So it's here really up to you, I would say. And as I mentioned, the Knights of Avarice is a very funny and thematic warband. And on their Patron skill there is 2 skill which is very funny and thematic, I think, kind of. The rest is okay or not as good. And the first one, which is funny for me, is the Aurate skin, which is literally saying that the model with this skill is granted a splendid golden skin of their Patron, and their blood turns into molten gold. Each time you place a blood marker next to a model with this skill, add 5 Ducat to your treasury. So if the unit with this skill is receiving 6 blood marker during the game, is also generating 30 Ducat for you, which is not much, but it's funny as hell. Especially because you need more money to buy new units, because here you need to have at least 80 to include it in the warband, or spam a lot of wretched. So this one is kind of helpful, but it's mostly funny as hell that you bleed in gold. So whoever came up with this skill, it's just best of job. And the other and the other skill that is funny is the Eternal Depth, which is you give it to a unit, if I understand correctly, and this skill is making all your wretched to not going to be out of action during the injury phase, because as it's written, their heads keep regrowing their body. So it's like, no, you can't get away, you coming back and you go back front. So what the hell? Yeah, this 2 skill is just way too cool and way too funny. So it's yeah, very nice job from the designer. And generally the warband is very expensive, so this is your Court of 7-Headed Serpent version of the Heretic Legion, because the 80 Ducat minimum is making it very difficult to have multiple units at the same time on the table, especially if you keep losing your units. So you need to make sure that you don't lose too many units during the game, because if you do, you are in a very difficult position. But luckily their items and rules and these Patron skills are very thematic, and yeah, as I mentioned, for me this is the most thematic warband in Trench Crusade, because I just really laughing like hell if I think about it. And at one point I will make a Knights of Avarice warband, I think, because it's just too cool. But if you're playing it or played it, what is your optimal list for one-off games, and what is your optimal list for campaign start? Because here it's very difficult to make a good one due to the 80 Ducat restriction. So it's very interesting. Maybe it's the most interesting to see here what people think about the optimized starting list to be. So please share and let's see what everyone came up with. And thank you for your attention, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.